Okay, the Hazleton City Council regular meeting will come to order on Tuesday, January 20th, 2015. Let's rise for a moment of silent meditation. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Bast.
Here.
Cassatt.
Here.
Mope. Here. Sosar.
Here.
Mundy.
Here. Approving the minutes of the previous meeting, none. Proclamation communications, none. Courtesy to the floor on what's our agenda only. Go ahead, Mark.
Mark Rabo, First Street, Hazleton. In regards to 2015, 17, and 18, is this for the hangar that was previously leased by the school district, or is this the one that was leased by Lehigh Valley that we're leasing right now, or is this a separate hangar? And number two, I would like to know who is the owner of this Crosswinds Flight Center Incorporated?
His name is on here, is David Antolik.
Okay. And also I'd like to know how much the airport made or lost last year, because that wasn't stated in the budget. And I would like to know, as far as the airport, there's an advisory board, but why aren't we, if we had this airport for so long, why hasn't there been any discussion to transfer the airport from an advisory board to an authority, like an airport authority, and have that authority handle the airport, because it allows for that revenue, that under municipal authorities from DCED, I'm reading that current revenues can come from user charges levied on aircraft using the facilities, rental of space for retail outlets, ticket booths, offices, and hangars. So, and also permit fees. So if that's the case, why can't we, or the city, establish an airport authority for the Hazleton Regional Airport, transfer that airport's operations to that authority, instead of having the city taxpayers funding an airport and not getting even paid for when it's utilized, or whatever monies are owed, whenever monies are owed to it. So
I think that's a good idea, Mark. We will look into that.
Yeah.
Now that you suggested that, yeah, that might be a good idea to see what, we'll see what that would entail. But thank you.
all right, thanks.
Any other person to speak? Okay, next, old business, ordinances, none. Resolutions, none. New business, ordinances, none. Resolution 2015-12, council meeting scheduled for year 2015.
I'll present.
Second.
On the question? Everything okay? Okay, roll call.
Bast.
Yes.
Cassatt.
Yes.
Mope. Yes. Sosar.
Yes.
Mundy.
Yes. Next is Resolution 2015-13, authorizing the Director of Administration to adjust records refunds to 2014 city real estate taxes.
I'll present.
Second.
On the question? Roll call.
Bast.
Yes.
Cassatt.
Yes.
Mope. Yes. Sosar.
Yes.
Mundy.
Yes. Next, Resolution 2015-14, authorizing the Director of Administration to adjust the records refund to 2014 city real estate taxes.
Presented.
I'll second.
On the question? Roll call.
Bast.
Yes.
Cassatt.
Yes.
Mope,
Yes.
Sosar,
Yes.
Mundy.
Yes. Next is Resolution 2015-15, authorizing the Director of Administration to adjust the records refunds to 2014 city real estate taxes.
Presented.
Second.
On the question? Roll call.
Bast,
Yes.
Casat,
Yes.
Mope,
Yes.
Sosar,
Yes.
Mundy.
Yes. Next is Resolution 2015-16, amending the Resolution 2014-135, requesting a local share account funds for the Catholic Social Services.
I'll present.
Second.
On the question? Roll call.
Bast,
Yes.
Casat,
Yes.
Mope,
Yes.
Sosar,
Yes.
Mundy.
Yes. Next is Resolution 2015-17, authorization to execute cooperation agreement between the City of Hazleton and Pathway to Recovery Counseling and Education Services.
I'll present.
Second.
On the question? Roll call.
Bast,
Yes.
Casat,
Yes.
Mope,
Yes.
Sosar,
Yes.
Mundy.
Yes. Next is Resolution 2015-18, approval of airport hangar lease, Crosswinds Flight Center.
Present.
Second.
On the question? Jeff. Are they building one, Jeff, or is there one there that they're
I
occupying?
think it's just a
It's
land.
on the map.
It's just a land lease. I guess that guy has, it looks like that, he has a hangar
So they're gonna,
on.
If I could respond.
oh, go ahead.
It's just a land lease. The hangar's already there. It's privately owned by this Dave Antolik, and the purpose of the lease is twofold. He's reducing the square footage of the land. There's apparently some land outside the hangar that he no longer needs, and he's also changing the entity of his corporation. It's my understanding there's one other shareholder or director or officer, and that other person is leaving. So the entity is solely owned at this point by Mr. Antolik.
Mr. Solicitor, one question very quickly. You've therefore then reviewed from what you've been saying. You've reviewed all of this and you find this, you give your approval to this.
I find it proper, yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one question, Bob. Is this similar pricing to our other leases?
I believe it's very similar, yeah.
Okay. Okay, it's not much different than the regular pricing. Okay.
Correct.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Bast,
Yes.
Casat,
Yes.
Mope,
Yes.
Sosar,
Yes.
Mundy.
Yes. That's it for our resolutions. Comments from the audience?
John Keegan, 105 Ferrer Avenue, Hazleton, Pennsylvania. I want to revisit council members sitting on the authority boards. How did this come about? Where was the discussion among the council members to decide to put council members on authority boards?
A conversation between us, or?
Yeah, how did you guys, how did you research the law? How did you come up with the way to do this?
I came across it when the third-class city code came back out, and then we put out, I asked for letters of interest, and if anybody wanted to put a resume in, and then when there was nothing came back for the water or sewer, that I suggested that maybe be a good idea to put a council member on.
And the discussion was with the rest of the council members?
I believe I talked to Dr. Sosar once.
No, it came up on at a meeting.
No, we're not going to go there with,
Okay,
with,
what's
with
your
closed
point?
doors.
Came up when, Jack?
What's your point?
Came up when, Jack? I'm asking.
We
Well,
voted
there's
on it.
obviously there was a discussion
on it.
before the vote.
There was no.
There was a discussion before the vote, Jack.
Well,
You can
could
say
get the
anything
minutes
that you
then. Why don't you
want
get the
to.
minutes and
Excuse
look
me.
at it?
There was a discussion before the vote.
Let's go right to the heart of what Mr. Keegan wants. Mr. Keegan wants to say that there was violation of a sunshine law here, which there was not.
No, I'm not
Okay?
asking that,
What I'm
Dave.
saying right
Dave,
now
you're
to
allowed
you,
to, you're
what
allowed
I'm
to
saying
discuss
to you
between.
right now, and I'll tell you right now, I called both boards. I called the local government commission. They said we not only suggest it, but we encourage it. Number two, I called up the ethics commission and I said, "Is there any problem with this?" And they said, "Absolutely not. The only thing that you can do is not vote for yourself." So
I'm
there you
not
go,
asking
John.
for a violation of the
There you
Sunshine
go.
Act. You could talk to him
Okay.
every day of the week. That doesn't violate the Sunshine Act. I'm asking what you
Exactly.
guys discussed among for each other.
All done. All done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Mark.
Mark Rabo, First Street, Hazleton. Getting to the last person who spoke.
Excuse me, 1 second. There's a little bit of noise outside here, I think, from your last speaker. So why don't we let that noise go away first?
I think
then
it's
we
from,
can
I
hear
think
you.
it's from your buddy trying to follow him out the hallway.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yelling at
Go
him.
ahead. Okay.
Okay. I serve on a county board, the Rail Authority, which has a sitting state representative, Mike Carroll, that's on the board. And there are also county council members that also serve on county boards, such as the retirement board and the airport board. Mr. Morelli was recently appointed to that board.
I thought the two on Luzerne County, the school, Luzerne County School, there used to be on there, right, Dave? Wasn't some members on there?
Yeah. So,
Served on there too, Mark.
and so what I'm saying is, if anybody has a problem with people elected officials serving on boards, municipal boards or county boards, they should take it up with like Dr. Sosar said about the local government commission approved it in the reenactment of the third-class city code, as well as there's state boards which have I believe representatives on those boards too. So that being said, I think that it shouldn't be blamed on council. If you have a problem, take it up with the state. Take it up with DCED, take it up with the local government commission. And one other thing, on the in the paper, I saw that about the Downtown Alliance, the first draft of the plan. I just wanted to advise council that you guys have the final say in the approval of any planning that's done to change the landscape of the city, just so you're aware. And instead of having it presented after the fact, I think council should take an active part in learning what's going to be done in our city's name. So just wanted to remind you of that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Norman Tarantino, Lee Court, Hazleton. First of all, I want to see what the status is about the hookah bars. How's your research coming along, or where are we at
There's
getting?
something going to come shortly. Shortly, definitely.
Good. Now we'll also include after-hours clubs as part of that
Yeah.
basis, because that's one of the things I think we had a low because of the weather, but I think that in spring that's going to start
Something's
happening.
coming shortly.
Good. One thing is, what about budgets for individual departments? Can that all be done by the chief, start directing for the budgets of the code enforcement? Is that his department? Can the chief of police set the budgets for the code enforcement? And that's what I understand, that he's working on budgets for different departments that he, I guess, oversees. I don't see how the chief of police is able to handle 3 or 4 different departments and be the chief of police.
I said the same thing when he took over those positions, but I agree with you.
Yeah, and so you don't know if there's any legal precedent that he has the right to be in those positions at the same time?
Well, I mean, the mayor appointed him to be in those positions. At the time when he was appointed, I told him that he should have declined that because I think his main focus should be on the police force.
And one of the things, too, is I want to now they're planning to merge the Luzerne County Transit Authority with the Scranton Authority. We need to see about maybe taking over the shared ride program that is run by that by the Luzerne County Transit, by the City Transit Department, because I think it will also allow the city to develop more funds from the state if we brought the entire shared ride program down to here that was serving the people instead of it having to be dispatched and be run out of Wilkes-Barre. I know we have a limited shared ride program here with the current Hazleton Transit Authority, but I think we need to look into what other funding we can get for that department.
Yeah, we will.
All right,
We
thank
will.
you.
Thanks, Norm.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Antonio from Hazleton. And I came here tonight to thank the members of City Council for approving the new budget and watching the senior citizens, the taxpayers. You know, some of these senior citizens are low income and they own homes. They can't afford the tax increase. So I appreciate that you people approved this new budget without a tax increase. Kudos to you for doing a good job, and also for getting rid of the stormwater fee.
Thank you.
The low-income homeowners, thank you for what you have done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Antonio.
Grace Cuso, James Street. Pertaining to the gentleman earlier on the appointments, normally I would have probably been a proponent against council, but what I have seen, I think council needs to be on these authorities. You need to understand the position. Actions by some of the board members place the ratepayers in. And if you do not keep abreast, and I have to tell you, I've tried. I've reported out immediately any issues. Unfortunately, Keith, you were tied up with school, and I did not get you. You were busy, and I will not say I did. When the law was changed last year, I spoke with almost each and every one of you. I have no problem with it because I think you need to know the ramifications. You know, they raised the sewer bill $50, you know, and then you raise the taxes another $75. You have to understand where it's all going to fall. And the ramifications on the property owner is going to be detrimental, that you will have no city left. And yes, the law has been changed. I don't understand John's problem, other than you didn't put him on the board, and that's too bad. You know, life goes on without John Keegan. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Teddy.
Ted Sherrock, Hazleton. Antonio stole my thunder. I was going to change tracks here a little bit. I just came before council to compliment you. Before I came here tonight, I turned on YLN Topic A. And it was a breath of fresh air to see that the citizens of Hazleton can finally get the truth of what the government, what's going on here. Because if you don't come to council meeting, you really don't know. And I think you did a fabulous job. And kudos to Gary. He did just a tremendous job on an interview. I mean, it was unbiased, I think. It was just tremendous. And Barrister, you're a breath of fresh air. I mean, I've never seen a meeting. I've been coming here now at least 4 years. This is the smoothest 5-0 votes, and one question to the solicitor, and you had a solicitor to ask. Boom, 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 it's answered. Tremendous. Thank you very much for coming. And thank you, council, again, as Antonio said, for our taxes and stormwater. I mean, I think the city's on the verge of coming back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Hi, Chris Puza, St. Charles Drive, Hazleton. I'll second that, Teddy. That was a nice, quick meeting. It's nice to see a solicitor here. Just a couple of quick things on some of the recent votes. Looking at some of the past meetings and the voting, one, just a perception that we're setting with some of the votes. Talking to some business people in the town, I would hope that you would all agree that we have some really intelligent business people in the city of Hazleton. We look around, it's not, just Gene or Dave or whomever it may be that are the experts on everything. We had the chief of police who we probably should consider our expert in law enforcement, and he basically said in the paper in his interview that we'd be throwing away taxpayer dollars if we went with part-time positions. Gene, I know you mentioned last meeting, you gave your thoughts on it. I'm really not sure what your law experience is, because I know I don't have any, and I would probably refer to someone with the experience and kind of trust them in that respect. Jack, I do give you kudos to go in the Klein Township and, checking around. But I think at the end of the day, it's difficult to compare Klein Township to Hazleton. My parents live in Klein Township. That's where I'm from. Sometimes if the police, someone part-timer called off sick, McAdoo would just cover Klein Township. We wouldn't have police coverage. I think it's fair to say we can't go without police coverage in the city of Hazleton. Plus, we're really not going to have any coverage for 2015. The chief said it could take close to a year to get these, police officers on the street. So we really didn't gain anything this year, and it is costing us money. And if they choose to leave, like he said, we're kind of back to square one. The second perception is, just together with the authorities. I do get Jeff, your thought concept on this. I know we talked about it, and we have good conversations about it. But at the end of the day, it's a perception that city council are the only experts on everything. The police, ordinances, which I think that's our job, even though sometimes we don't do the right thing there. But the authorities, the sewer, water, I don't know what always makes us the experts on it. I know with the sewer authority, I wouldn't do a good job there because I really don't have a lot of information or knowledge about that. And I like to consider myself somewhat intelligent, went to college, have a good job, I'm successful at what I do. But that's a whole nother area where we should be looking for someone that maybe knows what they're doing there, or a successful business person in the city. And there are people that will help.
It's hard to get people to go on board.
And I agree.
Like Louis had a problem, John Quigley had a problem. It's hard to get people to want to do public service because there's a lot that goes with it.
And Jack, and I agree. And I appreciate, like Jeff, like you taking the time. I know you got a business and doing this. But I know Mr. Sosar said that he called the Ethics Commission. And I really didn't want to get into it, but I too called the Ethics Commission. And until I asked a specific question, it sounded like it was okay. Their class city code says it's okay. Now, they were very specific that they actually referred me to an attorney because once the information was out, he said, I think you really should talk to the attorney and kind of go through it with him. I mean, I have the attorney's name. I documented who I spoke to. It's easy to say, well, I picked up the phone and called, and you're quote-unquote, they gave me their blessings. When they heard that the authority was a paid position, he said, that changes everything. There is financial gain, he said, because there could have been potential lobbying, and that's considered, if it's a paid authority position, it's financial gain. If it's a non-paid authority position, there's really not a big issue with it. These are paid positions.
But the paying position is minimal. No. It doesn't pay to drive to the meetings.
He asked about,
it's not a paid position where a director gets money. They're paid per meeting, and mainly they're to cover your expenses. And believe me, they don't. I was on the authority 9 years. It didn't cover.
Right, I understand that, but it's a paid position. That's about $1,500 a year, and I don't know. I know a lot of people that could use an extra $1,500 a year.
The water meeting's $30 a meeting.
And it could potentially work out to be over $1,000 a year.
It could. It depends how many meetings you attend. But the meetings you have to attend, and sometimes you have to be up there for other functions that you don't get paid for. And
it's definitely over $1,000 a year, though. And it's at the end of the day, he said it's irrelevant how much it is. If it's a paid position, that becomes the issue. And he said, especially if there is potential lobbying. Now, I know you said there is no lobbying, but we have an article in the Standard Speaker that says Councilman Consat lobbied the day before for these positions, and then they're voted on right after. So it's in black and white.
Well, I don't know. Well, I don't believe everything I read in the Standard Speaker. If you do, then you have a problem. I don't believe everything I read in the Standard Speaker.
But I'm just, there obviously had to be conversations, and I don't want to get into it. And I don't want to get into an argument because I understand the thought behind it.
Yeah.
You are. All you're doing is adding on to John, who is your best friend's position. And that's
I'm not getting personal. Is he a friend? Yes, but I have lots of friends.
Now, this is what you came here for.
I actually have a very good friend that I consider that it was one of, and we conversed about it, but it's not getting personal.
Well, then
The other thing is just a perception that we're painting is, people in town are getting upset because it's just, we think that here are the experts, this is it. And it's not the case. I know, Gene, you put up a large building in your own
Okay, now you're getting personal, but getting back to Dave, Dave was on there for 2 terms. Putting him back on the Water Authority, I think, is a good thing to have a person with 10 years of experience.
Right.
Now, I don't think anyone could even match that. So would he be the best candidate to go back on there? I think yes.
Well, I think there could be business people in the town that are quite successful.
How many resumes did we get? Jeff put that out there. How many did we get?
A total? I think we got a total of 8 phone calls and letters.
I gave a
But
resume.
nobody.
How many resumes?
It was maybe 8 total phone calls and resumes.
I gave a resume
4 or 5.
out,
I got some. I got some phone calls that. But
So it's hard to get people to come on board, believe it or not.
And they pulled out due to health issues.
Right, and I'm just saying that there are people if we went to and ask, and sometimes we just have to look.
And in asking it nicely, Mr. Puza, and I know you did, so I will answer you very nicely back. And you raised an issue there about, when I mentioned, and I raised the question of a salary on the board, that they said, it was a whole different ballgame, and that they wanted to go to a lawyer and everything else. I raised it to the local government commission, which are lawyers. Now, they will not render a legal opinion on their own, and they will tell you that. I'm sure you've checked. But if you also go to the ethics board, there are also lawyers involved there. And what they will do, if they have any kind of problem whatsoever, will write a written opinion of about 6 pages if they feel that it's necessary. I mentioned to them everything that you just did, and without question, even though it was a paid position. And they said, oh, yeah, there would be a slight conflict because you can't vote for yourself. That was the only conflict, sir. So I think you might want to double check that.
And I did mention that to
And
them.
if they told you that, sir, I'd like you to include that because there is, but that's where it comes on.
But they also mentioned one other thing,
so
too.
just for the record.
I know, but they did mention
Just
one
for the
other thing,
record.
too. If there was a conversation before about this, and you abstained from your vote, and Jeff abstains from his vote, it's considered a trade of votes. I mean, I know we talk about transparency.
Never traded votes.
I know we talk about transparency, but we had a council member that didn't even know when the next meeting was with a major vote for the budget. So that's not transparency.
I never traded a vote. I don't trade votes, sir.
Okay. It's just saying it's the perception that we're setting.
Well, and if you want to bring it up, you can bring up the perception, certainly all that you want to. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to tell you right to your face, right in your eyes, there was no trade of votes. Now,
Okay.
you can believe it or you can refuse to. That's up to you.
Right. I
Right,
could.
And I know where you'll be.
I could. Probably won't, but we
Probably,
could.
yeah.
Okay. But I just don't understand why we can't talk about council folks that are supposed to understand the ordinances, yet we break our own zoning laws. I don't understand why that's personal.
No, you're making it personal, and I never broke a law. And you can talk to Mike Wolfling after the meeting, and you could talk to Rick Weck, or you can call the mayor up as well. All right?
Well, it's just a point that you had a garage that you got variances for. It had to go to zoning, and now you get a second one with the same thing.
I've already built a garage prior and went to zoning for variances. If I had to go this time, I would have gone. All right?
Okay.
Now, again, you're doing an awful lot of innuendos here, Mr. Puza. A lot of if this were true, if that were true, if this and if that. You know what? You are beginning to tread on very, very thin ice here right now because we have been down this road. Mrs. Mope, first of all, is not the one. It is her husband who has put up the garage. So if you've got a problem, I suggest, and you bring that up with him. Number one, they have followed all the rules. Number two, as Anybody at that table and sitting over there will tell you. So you can start bringing up all the innuendos you want. And again, we know why this is being done, because this happens to be an election year. So let's cut through the chase and know exactly what's going on.
Well, that's not
Okay?
it. That's not
That
it.
has
Can I
nothing to do
interject
with
for
it?
a second?
Because that's not it. Because neighbors are upset.
With it?
Neighbors called it, and they're upset.
Okay.
Let me interject. Dave brought up a point about it being an election year. And I remember for 2 years after I was elected, Jack was off his rocker because Dick Amon did not get put back on the Water Authority. And you just came up and said something about John not getting put on the Water Authority, and that's why he's up here. Jack was out of his mind for 2 years, up here screaming and yelling and carrying on.
I wouldn't.
I will
call it
get
that. I wouldn't call it
audio.
that.
I will.
No,
Yeah,
he
but he
wait.
sent two people to my house 3 times about it.
They took off a guy who had 20 years experience and put somebody who had no experience.
And so,
That was my problem.
yeah. So, and you went ballistic for 2 years, Jack. You were
Well, that's
completely
because,
out of your
that's
mind.
because there were people who wanted to
You're-
sell the
you're-
water authority, and I didn't
No,
want that
there
to
wasn't.
happen.
I don't know where you got. That's a made-up mythical thing in your brain, Jack.
Well, they wanted to sell it.
'Cause
The
it's
previous
Jack's-
mayor wanted to sell the water authority. Maybe you weren't around there. You didn't come to any
Well,
council
yeah,
meetings.
I know that you said about the previous.
They wanted to sell the water authority.
They wanted to sell.
and I
You're
wanted
going to
to
end up selling the water authority, Jack, because you're going to put the city in so far debt. I'm just going to say that. And you want to sell it off piecemeal right now.
And Jack, I was just trying to talk about the perceptions, like the overall perceptions.
You know what? Why don't we
You know?
talk? Why don't we talk about fact, Mr. Puza, rather than perception?
Yeah.
Okay, the fact.
Let's deal with fact.
The fact
okay?
is, Mr. Sosar, that you said that the idea of going on the authorities is for you to protect an increase for ratepayers. When you were on the water authority, you voted for increases to the ratepayers. So how is that protecting me when
Mr.
you
Puza,
voted numerous
I voted-
times?
No, I voted for one when I went on my very first year, in the very first year of 10 years that I served, and I voted for one increase. Don't
Just
vote-
one?
Just two.
Two, okay, two.
Two. And
Just-
that second
okay.
one was 8
Just
years.
two?
8 years later. Excuse me. I think that's pretty darn good to go 8 years without a rate increase. Now, if you want to do perception again, and that's exactly what you're doing here, Mr. Puza, why don't you deal with the facts? And don't read the blog, because it's got 6 or 7 increases that I have, and that's not true. Let's deal with truth. Let's not deal with perception.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead. You want to say something, Antonio? Go ahead.
Yes, but maybe she wants to
Go ahead. You want to say something? Go ahead.
And then I'll speak after.
And you can speak after her, Antonio.
Okay, first of all, let's talk about the police. The money that you put away would give you 100 hours a week's coverage at $20 an hour. That's counting Social Security and everything else. And a lot of cities have used part-time very successfully, and if our police chief has problems, he needs to work with it, because somehow one officer is not going to give it to you, because the most they could work is 40 hours without going into overtime, and of course he has vacation and holidays and everything else. So we don't even get 40 hours on the average. Maybe we're lucky 30 hours through the year. So getting 3 times the coverage, I don't know why our police chief says that's throwing money away. We could use these part-timers for traffic control. We don't have our police out there for traffic control. I don't think that's tricky to train them in. We could use them for prisoners. Okay, that's the first issue. Second issue is about favors being done. And I'm going to mention the name because I sent this complaint off to the police chief because he was head of code, and this concerns John Keegan and the trailers on his property. I took the code right out of the code book, highlighted the ones that he was violating, and needless to say, they were not followed up on. So there are people that do get special treatment, and that special treatment was done by John Keegan, and for John Keegan by the police chief, and therefore the mayor. So I don't know why you're saying that Mrs. Moak did something wrong when they followed all the rules, but 2 complaints I had with pictures and highlighted for 2 years in a row, and they were ignored. And We're told to ignore them.
Send them to Mike again. Maybe send them to Mike or
I'm
to the
sure
code
Rick
office.
has them.
Could you send them again to them?
I will send them again. I mean, there was at least 6 or 7 violations on it.
Okay.
And they were, anybody else, they would have had $1,000 a day fine. So,
maybe.
well, I'm just saying they do it to people they don't like.
Yeah.
And apparently they like him and there's no fine. Okay, that's the main part. And
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think I suggest that you should have a police officer at council meetings.
No, we don't
have
need
any
one.
security here.
We don't need one.
There's no security at all.
He's a constable.
Yeah,
He's
but
going to help us.
Let me explain something here.
Yeah.
Politicians have enemies.
I know, Antonio,
right?
I know.
Politicians have enemies, and some of these enemies are a little bit,
right.
You know, a little bit wacky.
Well, look
you
what
know.
happened up in the Poconos. Yeah, up in the Poconos.
You know what has been happening in the other cities.
I know.
Right? You know that happened right here in Pennsylvania, not too far from here.
I know.
Right? You should have an officer here on council meetings.
I know you'll help us too, Antonio.
And whatever happened to the 3-minute time limit? Someone comes here to speak.
I know. Sometimes I let it go, and sometimes I let it go too long.
Thank you.
Thank you. Antonio. Go ahead, Mark.
With regards to the service of the, council members, on the Blighted Property Review Committee or Vacant Property Review Committee, a member of council has to serve on that committee, okay? Now, I could swear that someone who served on that committee, the first person who served on that committee, it was about the Walnut Cranberry Creeks properties, and did not do their due diligence and certified them as blighted properties without citing what criteria under state law. Mr. Puza, could you remind me who that was? Because I could swear under the minutes, that's you on the Vacant Property Review Committee.
Okay.
You were on the Vacant Property Review Committee when you were on
Okay.
council
Okay.
that certified those the Walnut Creek properties
Okay.
as blighted,
Okay.
and you didn't.
Okay, Mark, you could.
So
okay.
I just wanted to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, one other thing as far as board members, when I was applying, well, I didn't apply for it, but I inquired about the Blighted Property Review Committee and redevelopment authorities, and I asked, what was being done the first time, and I was in Mr. Hahn's office and discussing about the blighted properties, the plans that were available, and the mayor walks in and he says, and he looks at me and he says, if you even think about applying for a board, don't even think about it. And I could swear that somebody who looks like me and put in a resume has more knowledge about redevelopment than, and I don't want to boast, but I don't want to say that I'm not good either, because then I'd be lying. That's, by the way, I'm paraphrasing what Bruce Lee said. But anyway, I am that good. And I could say this without a shadow of any hesitation or purpose of evasion, so help me God. I am that good in redevelopment. And I probably know more about redevelopment than most of my board members on the county side, too. So
I believe that.
for the mayor to say, for you guys to say, for John and for Mr. Puza there, to say that there was no people that applied that have experience to boards. Here was one who applied.
I know, you did, Mark.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, is that it? Mr.
Richard Amon, 236 East Beach Street. I just have two quick things to say. Number one, I find it hard to understand why someone that would take a blighted property, a property that was an eyesore to the neighborhood and to the city, and improve it to the point where it's 100 times better, 1,000 times better than what it was. Why that would be a problem with anybody. I just can't understand it. Number two, if I could ask Dr. Sosar and Jeff if they had anything to do with changing the third-class city code. Obviously, you didn't. But my point being there is, if somebody at some levels determined that it might be a good idea for councilmen to be able to sit on these boards, then why wouldn't you do it? Jeff, I know how hard you work on everything that you're involved with. Dr. Sosar, I served 10 years with him on the Hazleton City Authority Board. He has twice the experience of the man he replaced, and 5 times the intelligence. Now, understand, these are all issues that they're just taking a completely negative approach and not a common sense logical approach. The same thing is with the police department. You're adding more police, and who are the people that are complaining about it? The ones who sat back for years and did nothing. So I commend City Council for all of the decisions they made so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're done with public comment. Comments from the mayor, the administrator, or our solicitor? You could make any comment you'd like.
I don't have any comments.
Okay. Comments
Staying out of the line of fire.
from junior council? You want to say anything, junior council?
No, I think the big thing last year was everyone complained about the lack of communication between the authorities and, council and everything. So I want to see what the fall would be to, increase that communication by putting council members on authorities.
Yeah.
I don't see any problem with that at all. That's what everyone complained about, so here's your solution to it, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, out of the mouths of babes.
Any other comments? You'd like to make a comment?
Well, everything he said,
Okay.
I was sitting there during the meeting, it was very quiet. And then I waited for the thunder and boom, it struck. It's nice to see that everybody's still engaged, things got loud. This is how things gotta get done, and they gotta get done.
Okay, thank you. Comments from council, Keith?
Thank you, everybody, for coming, and have a safe trip home.
Jeff? Thank you.
Well, one thing I want to say is about the health inspections being turned over to the Department of Agriculture. I don't think it was fair that the city dumped this information on business owners at the last minute. Restaurants, the licenses were due January 15th, and you find out a week before that we're not going to be inspected. The health inspections that are out there now are due to expire on March 31st. On all the paperwork that the city sent out, there was no date when this had to be filed with the city or with the state. There's no urgency to get this done. What's going to happen April 1st if a business doesn't file with the state and inspect it by April 1st? Do we have 173 restaurants shut down because we have no business?
Is that true, Mike? Do they have to be inspected by the 1st? Does that hold true, or do you... What are the rules, though? Is normally...
They know the rules. They're going to deal with the bars and restaurants first because the liquor license is based on their health license. You just call it the region 3.
But what if they don't have enough manpower?
They have plenty.
They have plenty. They could get it done.
There's 70 inspectors in the region.
In our region, okay.
Because I don't have a liquor license anymore, so I'm just trying to get this out. But there's a lot of paperwork that needs to be filed. I mean, they said that all businesses are going to be classified as new, which do you have to file schematics?
No.
Okay. Region 3. You got that, Sam? Because I called them, they told me. When I called the number that was on there, and they said that everybody had to file all that paperwork with
I know I was at Brostis's, and he filled out his paperwork, and he said it was a lot normal than usual, but he filled it out and sent it in. He didn't say anything about schematics or blueprints.
It's,
Yeah.
I think what it is you were under the impression, and he's saying now you don't need it. I was at Jimmy's, and I talked to Jimmy Grohol about it, and he's under the impression, too, that all this paperwork has to be done. So maybe something needs...
There's...
With the schematics and the... with the floor plans or pipe plans and all that other stuff?
If can I make a suggestion along the way? If between Jeff, what you're going to review, and Mike, what you're going to review, if whatever you get together and can compile, so that maybe it can go out into the news, Sam and Gary, if you can get that on out to all the restaurateurs in town, especially too, what it is that they have to do and what it is that they don't have to do, so that everybody's on the same page, so that everybody knows what you're going to end up needing to follow, what you're going to need to pay, what's the time frame involved in this. That's going to, I understand where Jeff is coming from, and I was ready when it came my turn to reiterate what he was saying, that maybe council needs to take more of a closer look at this as well. I do think that information in this case is going to be crucial for people to know, because even if it's a lot of paperwork, that's difficult enough in itself. But if there are schematics, if there are pipes, if there are new programs and things like that they're going to have to follow, I understand, Mike. But if the perception, again, we're back to that. If that's one thing, as compared to what they actually have to do, I think people really need to know what they actually have to do. Period. Right. Okay, well then, if somehow we can get that information, if we can even act as a conduit, Jeff, if you can spearhead, I'll be happy to help, or whatever else I can do. But I think we need to get something in the press so that we can, and in the TV, so that we can get people aware of what needs to be done. Okay?
Okay. Besides that, anything else, Jeff?
no, that's it. Thank you.
Again, thank you for all coming. I, for one, again, will stand here, or as of right now, sit here and say that this woman over here has, and her husband, I know, have always done everything above board. I am proud to call her friend. I am proud to know what she has done for her area, and building-wise and everything else. And, you know, it's unfortunate that sometimes people do bring things with perceptions and so forth here instead of the actual facts. Mr. Solicitor, I want to thank you. You are a breath of fresh air here tonight, and I apologize to you for having the speed of the meeting and then the delay of everything else that's transpired. I'm sure you could be spending your time better than listening to us haggle a little bit. I do have a bottle of aspirin for you anytime you need. But again, I want to thank you. We had 2 questions tonight, and you're right here on the spot. Boy, is that really refreshing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to add to that too as well. And I mean, I've emailed you on the hangar and whatnot, and you gave me quick responses, and I see the material was in the agenda, so I appreciate it. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming. And I'm just going to give you as a forewarning. It's election year. I expect to get hit quite hard this year because I'm running. And you know what? Let them. I'm going to tell you why. I have done everything I can for the city and for the taxpayers, and I think the taxpayers know it. So because I've done my job well, I'm a major threat, and they need to get rid of me. And guess what? They're not, because the taxpayers will speak when they go to the voting polls. So you keep slinging the mud, and you keep playing dirty, because that's all the only cards you have. You're not adding anything beneficial to the city. All you're doing is tearing it apart, taking it down. And I'd like to thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Jean. I just have one thing. I want to thank the solicitor for coming, too. One other thing, I know Mark had mentioned about a municipal authority. It might be something, maybe you could check into that first a little bit, Bob.
I'll certainly research that. So I haven't looked at that issue.
Huh?
I mean,
yeah, it might not be. I mean, I think, and I know the airport is a drain on the city. We use our manpower there. We use our money to buy fuel. I know it's not making money. It does not make money. And at one time, we had a fixed base operator operating it. I mean, I'd like to try and even get back to that, if that's a possibility. Put it out for bid or proposal to try and get a fixed base operator. But in the meantime, maybe, that's something, I guess, Luzerne, their municipal authorities, the airport, right, Bob? They're municipal authorities?
I believe so. I'm not certain.
Well, yeah. 44, yeah. Okay. Well, maybe you could just check into it a little bit or do some preliminary, Bob, for us.
I'll certainly do that.
With that, I just want to say one other thing. Tomorrow I'm going with the mayor. We're going to a conference about our legal immigration settlement. Hopefully we could come to something. I don't know. I talked to the mayor. We'll be driving down tomorrow.
Together?
Yeah.
Who's driving?
But I just want to let you know that that's a conference with a magistrate, although nothing's been awarded yet, which, I don't know if that's unusual in itself, although I guess that's the way it's done. But, whatever happens, we'll report back. I'll report back the next meeting and let you know.
Can you tape the whole conversation in the car?
Yeah. With that, I just
I want a dashboard cam.
I just want to say that it is an election year and we'll have a lot, but that's how it goes. That's what we're doing here, but we'll get through it. And the building that's up there is a beautiful building. It's going to add to the tax base, add to the, it's going to pay more taxes, and I think that's what we need. We need more buildings built on vacant property in Hazleton to make it nicer, to make it a better place. And that's what more people should be looking at, building buildings instead of tearing them down.
And in Hazleton,
Yeah.
with our own money, too.
With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh, my thing came loose here.